RSF 49ers, Raj, says, according to Diana Rossini, Kyle Shanahan is not on the hot seat as the organization, quote, fully believes in his ability to lead the team forward.
Of course.
So
that makes sense. Listen,
okay,
I don't
so
think, I think everyone.
so that first one, we can put this one to bed. Okay, I hope if everybody out there, can you guys all read? This is it right here.
I'm not sure. It is a video podcast. Some people might
Kyle
not
Shanahan not on the hot seat.
Right.
The 49er organization, quote, fully believes in his ability to lead the team forward. So anybody, and it is, I just read that to you. It's 9:39 Pacific on the 14th of December. Yeah. If anybody going forward after 9:39 Pacific on the 14th of December goes out there and says, Kyle should be fired, blah, blah, blah. You're wasting your breath. He ain't going nowhere.
Correct. So, and I don't think he should go anywhere. You don't think that going to 4 NFC championship games in 5 years buys you a bad season? Like, come on.
I mean, it should. It should.
It absolutely should. I'll say this.
But here, you said the number one thing is what? What's the number one thing? What is the number one issue with the offense?
I mean, I would say that it's Kyle not adjusting to the new reality of his offense, refusing to do so. And I have a bit of a galaxy brain theory on this. So we all remember how it went down with Brandon Aiyuk this past summer. And he skips the entirety of training camp. He's going to get traded. He's not going to get traded. There was a lot of weirdness. A lot of that weirdness stemmed from Aiyuk, right? The Niners were pretty straightforward, and Aiyuk just really liked the attention that being the number one story on SportsCenter every day got him. So he felt that through. But the day of roster cutdowns, Kyle was open about this. John has backed it up. The Niners were going to put Brandon Aiyuk on the restricted list for the entire year, or they were going to trade him, right? And they had a deal hammered out with Pittsburgh. I don't know the details of the deal. Regardless, that deal was ready to go. It might have been ready to go for a month, right? And what happens? Kyle gets word of, hey, we're going to pull the trigger on this deal with Pittsburgh. And Kyle, this is something that I see a lot in myself and everybody. Oh, now we're actually doing something here. Now I actually I can pay attention to this now that it's an absolutely dire situation. Kyle, well, that's not my thing. We're going to leave John in the front office to do that. Oh, I wouldn't want to interject or anything. But now that it's actually brass tacks time, we got to make a decision, yes or no. We're either keeping him, we're trading him, or we're putting him on the restricted list. Then Kyle jumps into action. And he says, no, we're keeping this guy. And they hammer out the deal in 2 hours, right before cut down day. They hammer out the deal in 2 hours and give Brandon Aiyuk everything that he ever wanted in that deal. Kyle panicked at the last second and said, we're keeping Brandon Aiyuk. And we still know that
what were they getting in return? Maybe he just didn't want to trade him because they weren't getting shit in return.
Well, it's interesting that then they, again, when it was offered the possibility of the restricted list, Kyle then says, no, okay, get it done. Finish the deal. It only serves to point that Kyle still has total and final say on what happens in Santa Clara as it pertains to the roster, right? He might say that, oh, no, John handles all of that. That is merely delegation. He still has the final say. So let's go back to March. They were ready to trade Deebo Samuel. My understanding of the situation at the time, and this stuff typically does not trickle to me, but I got lucky. My understanding was that a deal with Baltimore was done. It was ready to go. The text that I got said, done deal. Now, I'm not tweeting that shit out because I've been burned a million times before. I used to do college football breaking news, and I'm just not keen on getting dicked around by people who don't have my best interests at heart. And meanwhile, if I'm wrong about that, my career's over, and they get no repercussions because I can't burn them. So I'm sick of that game, but I like to know. I still have some connections. I like to know what's going on. My understanding at the time was that the deal was done, and then it all fell apart.
What was the deal?
The deal was a very high draft pick, perhaps even a first rounder for Deebo Samuel to Baltimore. So that deal was
ready. Draft?
I believe in the upcoming one because it was March. So that deal is done, and they're ready to pull the trigger. I then find out that the thing fell apart. Like went from 100 to 0 in a second. And I cannot get anybody, because I'm just not a good enough fucking reporter, to tell me exactly what happened. So let me wildly speculate, because this came to me on Thursday night mid-game, and it's annoying that it took me this long to even come to this conclusion. It's the same thing that happened in the Aiyuk situation. Now, this is my theory. I cannot confirm or deny that this is what happened. But the theories that I'd been floating are, oh, well, did Debo not get to terms on a new deal with Baltimore, and therefore, why make the trade if he's not going to re-sign? No one has said yes or no. That seems like a pretty easy thing to refute or to confirm. Did the 49ers ask for a sweetener at the last second? Hey, you need to actually throw us a little extra. And Baltimore say, you know what, deal's off. We're not dealing with you guys anymore. You're annoying. I've asked that specifically. I haven't gotten a yes or a no on that, because I guess that's a no in my case. Did Baltimore lower their offer at the last second? Well, if so, why would it be a done deal? Why would the Niners have agreed to that? So that seems weird that it would get over that hump. Here's what I think happened. I think that they had to run it by Kyle, and Kyle said, we're not trading Debo Samuel to Baltimore. He panicked in the last second again. I can't possibly lose my favorite player ever, even though it's great value for him, and that we'd be a year too early as opposed to a year too late, which is where they're at now. No. I got to have Debo Samuel. I can't live without him. And it was fine when this was all, theoretical, and we were just talking about it. But now that push comes to shove, no, I don't want to make this deal. That's what I think happened now. I think that Kyle now has choice with his players, because he has these ideas of what this offense should be, because he can't make do with what he has. And you see it on specialty. He freaked out when they should have made two key moves this offseason. Both times he's had an opportunity to make a big shakeup at wide receiver, one of which had to go. He panicked at the last second because, that would hurt my offense and make me do something that's uncomfortable. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to run it back. And now we're all uncomfortable. That's my theory.
The question was, what's wrong with the 49ers offense?
Kyle Shanahan
great speech, but
Kyle Shanahan's what's wrong with the 49ers offense.
See, I don't think so. I think the 49er offense, it's about they're not good. That's what's wrong with the 49er offense.
I get that.
They're not good.
Got to have
they're not good.
Cool players.
The offensive line is not good. The receivers aren't good. And the quarterback didn't play well.
That's for
and
sure.
The play calling wasn't good. They're not good. I mean, George Kittle, fantastic. Yep. Debo Samuel has been. Brandon Aiyuk really took the money and ran. I mean, he did not work out nearly like he should have or like he had in the past. Ricky Pearsall doesn't do shit. Doesn't make any plays. I mean, I don't care about what he looks like. I don't care about how nice he is at his locker. I don't care.
It has nothing to do with the locker. I see the guy getting open repeatedly. You don't have a
system if you don't produce. Okay, there's no such thing as a good receiver who doesn't produce. So that's it. You're not good until you produce.
Maybe he needs to send out a tweet on Monday, and then he'll get some targets.
He's gotten targets. He doesn't have catches, Dieter. He doesn't have catches.
What was he supposed to catch? What was he supposed to catch on Thursday?
He's got to catch something. Go bust out his game log and take a look and tell me he's good.
Watch the all-22 and tell me that he's not getting open and that Brock shouldn't be looking his way.
But, I mean, everybody's open in the all-22 at some point or another.
No, I get that. I know that you're not getting every target when you're open.
It's a timing situation. You have to get open repeatedly, and he's not open early. He doesn't have a huge catch radius. Yep. I mean, he's not getting the ball. So,
if y'all want to sell Ricky Pearsall stock, I'm buying.
I'm just saying, what's there to – he didn't do anything in college. Go look at his football card. He didn't have production in college.
Watch those games, Larry, and tell me he didn't do anything.
But he didn't have production. He didn't do it. He doesn't have
we can
numbers.
Go full Lombardi and pull up the spreadsheet, but you know that it's more complicated than that.
Well, no, but why? The college receivers on a team. You're telling me what Florida had other receivers they'd rather go to?
Correct, they didn't.
Most college receivers that make it in the NFL were far and away the best player on their team. I'm just saying
he was far and away the best player on his team. They just sucked.
But there's no production there. Go look at it. It's not there. He doesn't have the kind of production that for a guy who, went in the first round, he didn't have a lot of production. There's not a lot of touchdowns there. There's not a lot of catches there. He came back for his fifth year and had a decent final year but there's not a lot of production there. I mean, there are other receivers Ladd McConkey and some of these guys.
I'm not
at least
arguing
Ladd
that he's a better
McConkey ran
receiver
in the
than Ladd
4
McConkey.
threes.
I'm not
At least
saying
he
he's
ran in
better.
the 4 threes. This guy, but my point is just that. My point is just that Debo regressed.
Mhm.
There's no question that Aiyuk regressed. They didn't go to Kittle enough. They didn't have CMC all year. The offensive line was really bad. Kyle looked like he was in a funk most of the year.
Correct.
Physically, he doesn't look right. Brock looked like he regressed. And it wasn't there. So this like great offense just isn't great. The old saying, if your premise is wrong, your conclusion's wrong. The biggest fraud is their ranking as an offense.
Well, Larry, they did have historically great offense last year. Like we got to be, but
that was last year, and that was a different team. That's a different team. I mean, these are different teams year to year in the NFL. I think we all know that. So,
of course,
they this year. I mean, what happened from last year to this year? Last year, they had weapons that people were calling the Avengers. Nobody's calling their weapons the Avengers.
Right.
Sam Darnold's got Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson.
That's pretty
Brock
good.
Purdy's got Debo Samuel and Ricky Pearsall. And we're talking about, Brock's not Darnold. Fucking Pearsall and Debo aren't JJ and Addison. Why don't if we're going to start ripping? Let's start ripping right there.
Much less Aaron Jones and Hockenstein.
My point is just that the weapons were awesome. They've now not even league average. Their linebackers were awesome. They're now not even league average.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they really backslid. The line of scrimmage, their O-line's not good, but it wasn't good before. Their D-line's not great, but it wasn't spectacular last year.
Right.
It's where they've gone from, whoa, they're the best in the game to they're not league average is that linebacker and running back. So to me, or linebacker
and just offensive weapons
and offensive weapons. So that's what happened this year. Their whole equation bogged down. They have no weapons that are really scary to anybody. There's no speed.
There's no versatility either. Like that's the thing. Kyle can't.
When you watch the All-22, everybody's leaning forward. There's nobody leaning backward. There's nobody backpedaling. Sean McVay did not fear the 49ers throwing the ball over the top of his head. If you don't have anybody that they fear going deep, they don't honor any of the deep routes. So that's what happened. And then guess what happens on a wet night with Brock Purdy, who doesn't have a big arm.
Right.
Now Pearsall slips deep and he doesn't have it there. He doesn't have the arm to get it to him, or didn't have the release, or didn't have the grip on the ball, or whatever, didn't anticipate him going deep. He looked kind of surprised by it. But I mean, to me, the offense it's much more than just Kyle Shanahan. It's John Lynch. It's how bad can you evaluate talent? It's, there was 3 or 4 wide receivers taken at the end of the first round. You took the wrong fucking one.
I mean, again, sell the stock. I'll buy it.
What's that?
You can sell the stock. I'll buy it.
I mean, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, but I mean, let's live in the present. I mean, we can live in a mythical future and we can live with hope. I mean, everybody should have hope. Sports is a lot about hope, but right now, if you lined up Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman, Ricky Pearsall, and Ladd McConkey, and you had a 4-person draft, Pearsall's getting picked last. I think those other guys clearly are better than Pearsall this year. Which of them isn't? I'd love to know, because Pearsall is running around. It's not Coleman. Like he's not running routes.
Coleman's
he's out
kind of
there.
A mess.
But these guys are playing and producing more. So I don't know.
Well, maybe heaven forbid the Niners don't give Debo Samuel all the snaps, right? Like heaven forbid that they take Juwan Jennings and move him to his actual position.
But what's Juwan Jennings, a 7th-round pick who runs 4.77?
I like Juwan. He's a nice player. My point is,
he's a nice player, but he's a complimentary underneath 100%. Receiver. And guess 100%. What? Your underneath receiver is supposed to be wide open because you have somebody running off the top of the defense, but they don't have anybody running off the top. Of the defense.
Actually, they finally figured out. Maybe we put Pearsall at X in the 4th quarter, and they started moving the ball. It's unbelievable. How funny is that? When they had that throw to Pearsall that Brock couldn't get done, it's because he was doing the definitive X receiver thing in this system, which is the 15, 20, 25-yard post route to where you're forcing the safety to come over and help. So now if you don't get the safety help, you got the inside angle on outside leverage. That's a touchdown. And if you do get the safety to help, now you got all the room underneath. That's what Brandon Aiyuk does that not a lot of people give him credit for. Right? Like they used to just have Marquise Goodwin run a 9 route. We're never going to throw you the ball, but just go that way so that the safety has to make a decision. But when you don't have a receiver, in this case, Juwan Jennings, who forces that decision at all, you get what Steve Young has repeatedly called the creep, where the safeties just come in and in and in. And as you noted, there's no threat. There's no fear. What are you going to do? Throw it over our heads? Try us. And they just creep in and creep in and creep in. And now we already have a 5-man line and our safeties are now in the box. And feel free to run the ball as much as you want. It's all over the top if you want it, but you can't get there because it's Juwan Jennings who couldn't separate unless he gets a little bit of cushion at the line of scrimmage. And that's the one thing you don't get when you play X receiver. I thought it was strange and weird in the moment, and records on this channel and certainly on mine, that they said, oh, well, Juwan's our new X receiver. It's like, well, that's not the position he should be playing at all. And again, you look at the only times he seems to get serious work is when they bring him in tight and they're effectively playing him as a flanker. That's the only time that he can seem to get work anymore. I want to see Pearsall at X for the rest of the season, and I bet the numbers come.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. And if they don't, then you're going to say he's a bust.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's inarguable. I got 3 games left, though, Lair.
But I'm telling you, bust out the football card. Go look at his Florida stats. They're not fat.
I mean, I can tell
big.
you. I mean,
he did not lead the nation in catches. He did not lead the conference in catches.
He had 65 catches for 965 yards last year. I mean, what
did he do before that? Well, how many catches did he have in his career going into last year?
I'm not adding all this up right now, Lair.
Not very many, though, huh?
I mean, not really. He was a late bloomer. Bloomer for sure.
Okay, so I guess my first thing on Thursday night is why pass 31 times and run 18 times on a rainy night in a low-scoring game against a bad run defense when your O-line's not opening holes. And 10 of Guarendo's 16 carries went for 3 yards or less. Right. I told people saying, Krug, you're so wrong. Guarendo's this, Guarendo's that. I'm like, Guarendo's not a running back. They're, oh, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. Once again, 10 of Guarendo's 16 carries went for 3 yards or less. He doesn't have running back instincts. He doesn't find the hole. He runs into guys. His timing, we can blame Debo, but I bet you $1 to a dime that was Guarendo's fault for running into Debo.
You know, I thought that just because he's a rookie, but then you watch it and you're like, I actually there's no explanation for that other than Debo didn't know the snap count.
The timing was all wrong there, no matter what. But once again, Guarendo's, we talked about this, many times. His stat line is going to be 1 yard, 2 yard, 1 yard, negative 2 yards, 65 yards.
That's right.
That's what his stat line is going to be. He's not going to be a series of 8 and 12 and 15-yard runs. It's going to be negative runs, 1 yard runs that go nowhere, and then he's going to bust one loose and he's going to go for 75 yards. And everybody's going to go, wow, dude, he averaged 8 yards a carry. Yeah, but he's not really an every down back because he won't move the chains throughout the game. He'll just bust one. But in a must-win game, the 49er offense did not score a touchdown at home against one of the worst defenses in pro football.
Yeah.
Now, what is the issue offensively? I say it's personnel, but the bottom line is the Niners have not run the ball.
Personnel.
They haven't run the ball consistently since their bye week. 3-3 a carry against the Rams in this game, 3-9 against the Bears, 2-8 against the Pack, 3-4 against the Bucks. They didn't run. They ran well against Buffalo because Buffalo stays in a 2-shell and just dares you to run and says you're not going to pass. Right. They just could not run at all. They didn't cross the Rams' 25-yard line on Thursday night. That's the first time that's happened for them since 2010.
That's like a Bears
Troy
stat.
Smith as their quarterback. They reached the 33 in that game, and Singletary punted on the on 3rd and 3 on 4th and 4.
Yeah.
At the 33-yard line.
Wow.
But I mean, the 49ers are averaging 21.4 points per game scored on offense with 30 touchdowns from scrimmage. It's their lowest marks through 14 games since 2018. They have 22 fewer touchdowns from scrimmage and are scoring 8.5 fewer points per game on offense through 14 games. This is their offense without CMC and with Aiyuk not being very good.
Indeed,
now, Shanahan, this is interesting, is 19-30, 388 win percentage in the regular season in games decided by 7 points or less. That ranks 119th out of 125 coaches with 40 plus games in that scenario. And here's my theory on this. It's just that they don't win from behind,
right?
But they can't win close games because they don't play good situational football. If you can't run when you need to run, what difference does it make that you can run when you don't need to run? They can't run when they need to run. They can't pass when they're behind in the game. They can't close games out in the fourth quarter on offense because they can't run. The Niners blew 4 leads in the fourth quarter against the NFC West this year. Week 3 against the Rams, week 5 against the Cardinals, week 11 against Seattle, and then Thursday night.
Right.
They're the first team to lose 4 games against a division after leading in the fourth quarter since the 0-16 Lions back in 2008.
That's great company.
They don't
adjust, Blair.
They could have been bad in the red zone. They could have been bad, but they didn't get to the red zone.
Yeah.
They didn't score a touchdown in a game at home for the first time since 2012.
Right.
But
other than that, how was the play?
Most losses in the regular season or playoffs in games the team held a lead in the fourth quarter since Shanahan was hired in 2017.
Right.
The Colts have 24. The Niners and Chargers are tied with 22.